They're up, they're down, they're in, and they're out. And Philadelphia and New Jersey football fans and sports bettors want to know why. Eagles, why? Hi, everybody. Welcome to Why Eagles Why. Dave Bontempo, Pete Amato, and Bill Gelman with you. This is your weekly blood pressure pill for the up and down Philadelphia Eagles, who come to Denver now at 3-6 after a tough loss to the Los Angeles Chargers. We start the show breaking the huddle. It's 4 quarters plus overtime. Please remember to hit like and subscribe to be notified about future videos. First of all, guys, great to see you.
Hey, good to see you.
And we had quite an entertaining ride with the Eagles against the Chargers. Almost pulled it out, lost 27-24. Professor Gelman, as we go into Gelman's Gold in our first quarter here, what is your assessment of the Philadelphia Eagles?
My assessment, Dave, is opposing teams are getting all A's and B's against the Eagles defense. The Eagles defense is getting a capital F. Last week, Justin Herbert was the 5th opposing quarterback to complete more than 80% of his passes against this Eagles defense. 84.2% of his passes this week were completed. He threw for 356 yards, 2 touchdowns. And this is after Derek Carr threw for over 91% of his, completed over 91% of his passes in Las Vegas, where the Eagles pretty much got hammered there. So it's like, how do you expect to win if you can't stop the opposing quarterback? It's like, pick a quarterback. You're going to have a field day against this Eagles defense. I mean, take away the Lions game, because the Lions are the worst team in the NFL. Sam Darnold, we know his story. And then the Falcons just didn't look like they were ready to play. So you take those 3 games that the Eagles won, and then the rest of them, the quarterbacks are tearing this defense apart. It's like, I can't get what the planning is when they prep for these games. How do you like quarterbacks week after week complete over 80% of the passes?
So based on that, the Eagles are flunking out with honors as we move ahead now to the immortal Teddy Bridgewater that they'll face. But Pete, what observations did you make about this defense against the Chargers?
Well, to answer Bill's question, it's because in my opinion, it's because our defensive coordinator is just soft. He's weak. In last week's episode, I said I was happy with something that they did, and it was one word. It was aggressiveness. This week, Sirianni stayed aggressive. We all saw what happens when you stay aggressive on one side, but Gannon went back to his old ways of just playing a soft defense, just a very weak sided defense. And as Eagles fans, especially through like the early 90s and the 80s, I wasn't around for the early 80s, but we love defense. We love aggressive, hard-hitting, like smash mouth defense. We have Brian Dawkins, Jeremiah Trotter, Seth Joyner, Reggie White. Like, that's what we love. And this guy is the total opposite of that. This defensive coordinator, if you watch these games, he backs up the defensive backs. They're about 7-8 yards off of them, and then when they actually hike the ball, they back up even more. So of course, every quarterback, it doesn't matter who's behind center, they're going to look like Tom Brady back there because they're just going 6 yards and cutting in. Anybody could be back there. Bridgewater, So we'll see what happens this week, but it's something's got to change. Either this guy Sirianni's got to talk to this guy about ramping up his aggressiveness, or he's got to go.
Well, there are 2 things in there. One of them was that you kept waiting last week during this game for the for them to take away the short passing routes, crowd up and take it away,
Yeah,
and make them beat him deep. That's one thing that's not in their favor. Another one was that we saw Derek Carr, whom the Eagles had put on a pedestal. The Giants beat him and got a pick six against Derek Carr. And Bill, here's one for you in the numbers. When the Eagles have played the three AFC West teams, they have a total of 1 sack in those 3 games. And for you bettors, keep that in mind. All of those games have gone over. But what do you think of that 1 sack in 3 games?
Well, it's funny. Must have been reading my mind, because I was going to bring up the fact that they had no sacks, no turnovers in this game. If you want to win in this league, that's you got to at least get pressure on these quarterbacks. I mean, they're like Pete was saying, you got to be aggressive, you got to make adjustments, and I just don't see it on the defensive side. I mean, you got a guy like Fletcher Cox. Is he even on the team this year? Because I haven't heard his name mentioned much in any game this season. Am I missing something, guys?
No. What you're not missing anything. You're missing a defense that hasn't shown up in these games. And will they show up in the next game? We'll come to Pete for our first comment about that in the second quarter. Why Eagles? Why? Second quarter. This week, they visit the Denver Broncos, who thumped the Dallas Cowboys 30-16 last week. Go figure. Pete, the Eagles had a bad defensive effort last week. What adjustments do you think they have to make against Denver?
They have to stop. For one thing, they have to stop playing scared. Scared to get beat deep. One of the great defensive minds ever, the late great Jim Johnson. One of his main things he would always say is he wants to do quick work on defense, whether they get beat deep or they take down the quarterback, sack them, and 3 and out. And this is what Gannon's doing is the opposite of that. It's like a slow death when Gannon plays soft like he does, because you know what's going to happen, and eventually they're going to score, and it just takes so much time off the clock. Our defense gets tired, and when our defense gets tired, the front four is dead tired, and they can't get into the quarterback. So either you play more aggressive, or you give the front four a little help and maybe blitz a few times. So that just works kind of in tandem. Bridgewater is not the second coming of Tom Brady. They don't have any big playmakers on that team. They have a decent running game, but maybe Gannon won't be too scared to play his defensive backs up on the wide receivers, because he won't be afraid to get beat deep, because they don't really have any big deep threats on that team.
Now, Bill, Denver comes into the game 5-4. Everybody in that AFC West has 5 wins, so 5-4, and they're in last place. Yet Denver has 2 wins in a row, and they've got a ton of momentum and a good feel coming into that. What about this matchup of the Eagles defense against Teddy Bridgewater, based off of what you saw from both sides last week?
Hold on, I have to get something off my chest. How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, about it. That's right, Bill. How about them indeed?
So it's, I look at this Denver team. They go into Dallas and they pretty much shut them out a good chunk of the game. They were up 30-0. And, like you said, Terry Bridgewater is not a star quarterback, and it's but he threw for almost 250 yards against them with 2 touchdowns. And then you look at it, and he's going against an Eagles defense, and if they don't put pressure on him and they don't cover the receivers, what's he going to have, a 350 400 yard game against this defense, throw for 3 touchdowns? It's maybe, hopefully, the Eagles defense got a wake-up call, and they'll say, oh, wait a minute, we got to, do something here. We can't keep playing like this. It's I believe they might have even set an NFL record with the amount of weeks that they've let these quarterbacks have a field day against this defense.
Before we shift to the Eagles running game, some crazy stuff out of the Dallas-Denver game. Dallas stopped on a couple short fourth down conversions early in the game, looked very bad. And then crazy play of the year, Dallas blocked a punt, but lost the ball because the ball advanced past the line of scrimmage and Denver was able to advance it for a first down. So when it's not your game, it's not your game. But the Eagles' game last week, Pete, had been the running game. We've criticized it a lot on this show, but last week it looked good. What do you take out of that?
That is the one positive I take out of it. It looks like we've been reiterating that Sirianni is a young coach. We've been killing him in Philly, deservedly so, in my opinion. But it seems like he's kind of getting it so a little bit. This is 2 games in a row where he's not giving up on the run game after 2 tries in the first quarter. We have a good group of running backs. The only game breaker you have, in my opinion, on that group is Miles Sanders, who wasn't in the game. But you have Boston Scott, you have Howard, and you have Gainwell. 3 very different running backs that kind of complement each other. And when our offensive line is healthy, they've shown that they can push defensive lines around. Doesn't matter what defensive line is against them. So I was impressed with Sirianni sticking to his game plan, even when they even when they were going back and forth scoring with this team. So if he just kind of just sticks with his game plan and lets the offensive line do what they're supposed to do and lets the running backs do what they're supposed to do, I think they'll keep having success with the running game because I think their running backs are good. I think we have solid running backs. And then when Miles Sanders comes back, we have our home run hitter. So I look forward to seeing the run game more.
Bill, they ran the ball effectively against the Chargers. What about the Broncos?
We will wait and see. I mean, the thing with the Chargers, you got to remember the Chargers have one of the worst run defenses in the entire NFL. There's now a couple weeks of game film of Boston Scott and Jordan Howard. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can stick to this, if they get Kenneth Gainwell involved a little bit. Miles Sanders, I believe, is still 1 more week away before he can come off of IR. But my bigger concern is the passing game is, yes, the running game has been great, and the offensive line has been doing a consistent job with the blocking, finding the holes. But the passing game, I feel, is missing. You have Devonta Smith had a great game. He had over 100 yards and a touchdown last week. Goddard had a few catches, but where was the rest of the receivers? Did they have more than 2 people to catch the ball on this team?
We'll see. Quez Watkins is somebody they should go to more. Food for thought going forward when you look into this game. I felt that when the Chargers crept up and tried to take away the run from the Eagles late in the game, that was their effective passing drive with the pass to Smith. Will they carry that forward? We'll talk about more items around the league in the third quarter. Why Eagles? Why? Third quarter. Dave Bontempo, Bill Gelman, and Pete Amato with you. We have actually reached the halfway point of the NFL season. Let's talk about some teams that have surprised us and many bettors throughout the league. How about you, Bill?
I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals. I know I've touted them on previous episodes, but because I didn't expect them to be this good. In fact, probably one of the best teams in the NFL this season. They're 8-1. Last week they played without Kyler Murray, without DeAndre Hopkins, and they still crushed the San Francisco 49ers. They had the best record in the league. They're playing in a division with the LA Rams, who are very talented, deep team as well. So, you can look at them. You can look at the Rams, the Packers. I hate to say it, the Dallas Cowboys. they seem to be the creme de la creme of the NFC right now, and it's the Cardinals just seem to be able to, when they have everybody in play, they just seem to be unstoppable, and then they're putting up a lot of points. Their defense is strong. I think they're a team to watch this year.
Suddenly, guys like James Conner stepping up into these big holes and scoring. And if you were talking about the Cardinals before the year started, their projected win total was 8, and they're there already. So that's been quite a team. And Bill, Pete, the AFC North has been really quite a wonderful puzzle on many fronts.
Yeah, they've been quietly kind of ruling the AFC, besides a few teams like the Titans and stuff in the South. But the AFC North is definitely a puzzle. Going into the season, people thought the Browns maybe would run away with it a bit. The Ravens have a good team, but they're all right there. I mean, they're stacked up. The Bengals I feel like have had a great year this year, and they're 5-4 in 4th place in the division. And the Steelers started the season 1-3. Everybody thought, okay, Ben Roethlisberger's done. They got an old aging team. This is going to be a rebuilding year, and they quietly crept up to 5-3. And then you have the Ravens, who looked like they were going to run away with it, and it's a crazy division right now. It's kind of the opposite of the NFC East. The NFC East, everybody kind of battling for last place, but the AFC North, it seems like you don't know who's going to be. Anybody could be at the top, and I think it's an exciting division to watch and keep an eye on, because especially because how many years has gone by when it's just been a two-man race in that division, Ravens Steelers. I mean, but now it's a 4-man race, and it'll probably go down to the last week of the season.
Yeah, we had the Browns coming back last week and thumping the Cincinnati Bengals after losing to the Steelers, so they take turns beating each other. That has been a very exciting division. The Ravens come down to every play, the last play many times in their games, an overtime win. And I like talking about the New England Patriots, the team that was 2-4, but I jumped on board with them when they lost that overtime game to Dallas. They had a certain type of discipline in that game that kind of indicated that they can step up, they can still be under the radar for a little bit. Then they thumped the Jets, they beat the Chargers in Los Angeles, and then last week they dumped a 24-6 victory on Carolina. This team is doing it with deliberate offense. Mac Jones, who slid all the way to 15 on the draft night chart, and opportunistic, good defense, and still not getting all the betting respect. But we're going to find out about that this week because they played the Cleveland Browns, and I'm fascinated to see what happens there. So that's a look around the league. Bill with the Arizona Cardinals. I am on the New England Patriots, and Pete touting the AFC North. We'll take a look at some more in the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter of Why Eagles Why, and what games do we like this week? Pete, check in. Who do you like?
Well, the last 2 weeks I have 2 losses, so I got to break the streak. I like the Rams over the Niners. It's in San Francisco, but the Rams don't have too far to travel. I feel like the Rams, they took a loss, but I still feel like they're a great team. And I feel like the Niners are just slowly kind of falling apart. So it's a 3.5 point spread. I'm going to give the 3.5 points and take the Rams.
All right, Bill, you're ready to tackle a game nobody wants any part of. So you've got some guts checking in on the Raiders and the Chiefs.
Yeah, the reason I'm looking at this game is you're talking about Kansas City Chiefs team that has played in the last 2 Super Bowls. And they don't seem to be anything like the team that has played in the Super Bowl team. I mean, even in the Super Bowl last year when they lost to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, they didn't even look like the Chiefs. Will the real Patrick Mahomes show up this week? They're actually a 2.5 point favorite in Las Vegas against the Raiders, a team that's in turmoil. It seems something negative news with that team happens week after week. And yeah, like we mentioned before, the AFC West, you have all these teams with 5 wins. Is somebody going to finally step up and take control of this division? It seems like the Chiefs should be that team, but they're struggling with everyone this year. Then that's why I'm not picking a side, but it's a
Who do
game.
you like? If you had to pick, who do you like in that game?
I'm gonna go with Patrick Mahomes and
Yeah,
the Chiefs.
that's what I'm
I
thinking.
think they're gonna win. I think it's gonna be an ugly game, but it's you can't figure out that division, and it's like, who wants it?
Still a little bit of time to go with that. This is the week I'm going to find out whether the Patriots 3-game run is for real, because they take on the Cleveland Browns. The Browns have more skill position players, and they have a great offensive line, and they looked on track last week. The game is in New England. The Patriots have more discipline, and they tried to manage the game better. I've been riding the Patriots. It's a small line of a 1.5. And I'm going to go see what they have. I'm going to take those Patriots over the Cleveland Browns at home and see what happens. It's going to be an educational week at the very least to see where these teams stack up. So that's some of our thoughts for games around the league. And we'll have some overtime parting shots straight ahead. Overtime. Why, Eagles, why? We'll pass along an unofficial stat from last week before. At one point last week, the Chargers had a 98-yard non-scoring drive. Go figure that out. From their one to the Eagles one and got nothing. That's what kind of team this is this year. The Eagles are a crazy team. Pete, what are you looking at, and what is your angle as they go against the Broncos?
I'm looking at one person I haven't mentioned in the last couple of weeks is Jalen Hurts. He's not a game breaker. He's not a game changer as far as I'm concerned this year, but they can still win. In my opinion, he can still win games. I don't think he's going to be the guy to win on the game. I think Sirianni has to realize, he's coming from a passing background. He's a wide receivers coach, but I think the coaching staff has to realize the Eagles are a running team. That's where most of their success has been. They're a running team, and I think they're starting to realize that. And coming back to Jalen Hurts, I think if he just kind of plays in his lane, doesn't make huge mistakes, I think the Eagles do have a chance to win this game. I feel Jalen Hurts needs to kind of learn to see the field better. I think he needs to go through his reads better, but it should be run first, pass second, especially with this quarterback and with this team. And if they run first, pass second, I think they win this game.
All right, Bill, the Eagles in many places opened up at 6.5 for the over-under for the year. That's been changing as the season has gone along. What are your sentiments now at the halfway point about an over-under bet regarding the Eagles?
Here's the sad thing, Dave. The number's 7.5, and they have a really easy schedule in December. They have to play the Giants twice, the Jets. They have 2 games against Washington, and a Saints team that isn't that good this year. So, they already have 3 wins. There's a possibility. I don't think it's going to happen. It could happen. Jets aren't good. Giants, you don't know how healthy they're ever going to be. And Washington they're bad. So, that they could, hey, maybe they get 6 wins, 8 wins, but it's still not going to be a playoff team. We're still, as Philadelphia fans, we're going to be waiting another year to get a playoff team. After that Super Bowl parade a few years back where they said this is going to be the new norm. Yeah, losing is the new norm in Philadelphia right now. But it's, hey, if you want to look at a small positive, there's a possibility they could win more than 7.5 games this year. But before I got a note on my phone as we were talking here. OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. has officially cleared waivers. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but on DraftKings, he's plus 2,500 to be signed by the Eagles. I don't see it happening. The Eagles don't throw the ball enough to get him, but I was curious if you guys had any thoughts on where OBJ is going to end up.
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, he's cancer for wherever he goes, and he won't go back to the Giants. Probably Detroit or Houston would be the first two thoughts, but you don't even want to build with them like Pete. I wouldn't see Jacksonville wanting them because they're trying to build with younger players. So it would have to be some team that thinks they can get a quick fix.
Yeah, I don't see any of the rebuilding teams picking him up. I don't see anybody with a young quarterback picking him up. Probably Houston. You never can count out the Redskins because that owner is just kind of crazy, especially with the Cowboys. The Cowboys have enough wide receivers, but you never can count out if we're talking about NFC East teams, you never count out the Redskins, the Washington football team is what I meant to say. You can never count them out picking up guys like that. I just hope he doesn't get picked up by Philly.
No, I'm going Rams or Seattle. Those are my top two choices.
All right, Bill. Interesting teams that need that quick fix, and that's what we'll look to see where he goes. Well, we come back next week. People will be saying, "Hey, that was some win over Denver," or they'll be saying, "Why do we keep still following this team?" Either way, one question should emerge: why? Eagles? Why? For Bill Gelman and for Pete Amato, this is Dave Bontempo saying thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one.